the main changes and those potential challenges of BRCGS Food Safety Issue 9. And we will also be talking about documents and auto translations in food manufacturing. So my name is Emer, and I'm part of the marketing department in Envolve. So I'm delighted to introduce our panelists today. So we have the lovely Angela O'Donovan. So Angela is the head of standards for BRCGS, and she has 28 years of experience in quality management in high risk and food, ambient and non-food industries. So we also are joined by Envolve's customer success executive, Mr. Brent Crouch. So Brent also has experience in quality lead with a history of working in food production industry. And Brent is skilled in BRCGS also and continuous improvement and major retailer standards. So guys, it's brilliant to have you here today. How are you both getting on?
Very good, Emer. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. And Brent, yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm all good. Busy as usual.
I'm sure you both are. That's brilliant. Well, we'll kick off today anyway by talking about the changes in the BRCGS issue 9. So I suppose I'll begin with yourself, Angela. So can you just tell the audience, I suppose, a bit about what kind of stands out for you in terms of the main changes for the food manufacturing companies with the new issue?
Thanks, Emer, and thanks for inviting me today to join this.
Very welcome, thank you.
And thanks for the introduction. So at BRCGS, we manage many standards, and our standards help build confidence in your supply chain because we offer the most rigorous third-party certification schemes globally. And we feel we set the benchmark for what good looks like. Today, specifically, we're going to focus on food safety, and as you said, the changes that were recently published in issue 9. If I had to choose 3 big changes, I would just like to mention today product safety culture, the new audit options, and the changes to section 4.6 equipment. And I've chosen those 3 because we have received a number of inquiries about them. And we just believe sites might be just struggling a little bit to interpret the requirements. So there actually, there are 3 options of audit available. There's the announced, there's the blended announced, and then there's the unannounced. And I'll just talk very quickly through all these 3. So first of all, with the announced, so the entire audit happens on site at the factory. So the date is planned and it's agreed with the factory and it's agreed with the certification body in advance, and everybody knows when it's happening. And there's no chance of any other clashes because you've already told the factory or the certification body which other visits are planned. So you've avoided all of those and you both know the date and the date isn't going to change. But one of the big changes in Food 9 now is that every site that is having an announced audit must have 1 audit unannounced in a 3-year period. Now, what that means is that at some point in that 3-year cycle, an audit will be unannounced. And that's regardless of what grade you are. So whether you're a grade A or a grade D, you will have 1 audit unannounced every 3-year period. So that's not that every 3rd audit is going to be unannounced. But they say, for example, this year you could be announced, next year you could be unannounced, and then the following year announced again. So that's one of the big changes that's been actually introduced by GFSI. And so we are just making sure that we meet that requirement. And then the second change is then with blended audits, and that's where half of the audit is on-site and half of it is off-site. And that off-site part is remote. And generally speaking, for the remote audit, that's where we focus on those green colored clauses in the standard. And that's because those ones, they relate to documentation and processes and procedures, and we can do that remotely. And generally speaking, it's the yellow clauses that will be focused on during the on-site audit. Now, this is not an exact science, so this is just a guide only. And each site is very different, and so it's a very generic approach when I'm saying this. But if you don't know what I mean about the different colors, then I suggest you have a look on page 17 of the standard, and that clarifies what the green and the yellow means. Okay. And then the unannounced audit option, that's available for all sites, and that just really provides sites with an opportunity to demonstrate the maturity of their quality system. And successful sites, they're awarded a grade with a plus sign. So for example, you're A+ or B+, and that's how we distinguish yourselves from the non-unannounced program. And that really shows how confident the site is in their quality management and food safety systems. But the point here that I'm making today that links to what Brett's going to talk about is that for unannounced audit, it's very important that all of the employees feel confident in their roles and responsibilities. So your manager, you might not be on site the day of the unannounced audit, and therefore anyone could be involved in the audit. And if the audit's taking place in another language that's not your mother tongue or your first language, it helps you to have access to documents and procedures in the language of the audit. And also to have all of these documents in your mother tongue. But I expect Brent's probably going to talk a lot more about that later. I'll hand it over to you, just if you want to.
First off, I'd just like to wish that the other manufacturers that I've worked for, I wish they were announced. So we had that date set in. But I find that quite interesting when you say one of those within the 3 years is going to be unannounced. So I find that quite interesting, and I think that's quite a good stepping stone for a site that's worried about the audits being unannounced. And Andrew, if you could just confirm, is the first audit that they pick, would that just be would be announced, and then you would then pick the other two,
Well,
or 3 years, or
it's totally up to the certification body, because once you contact the certification body, they decide which audit is announced and which one is unannounced. And it could be that your first one is unannounced, but generally, I mean, I can't speak on their behalf because it's going to be any time in that 3-year cycle. And bearing in mind, don't forget, you mightn't have 3 audits, you might have more, because if you're a grade D, you might have 6 audits in that cycle. So only one of those will be unannounced. So that's what we're talking about. It's one in a 3-year period. So it's not one in, one every third. People sometimes, so it could be any time in that 3-year period, and it's up to the certification body to decide when that is.
I do like the sound of the blending audit as well, and I think that gives, obviously, having that chance of that remote, because obviously with the way things have changed now since the pandemic, a lot of people still work from home, or they do move out of the office and they work from home. So it's quite good that the management system side can be done, say, remotely. And then obviously, say, regarding the other part would then be done on the factory. But with my experience and the way I like things done is I do like things to be unannounced. And because it gives you a reflection of what how your site's doing at that time of that audit.
That's a very positive spin to take in it.
Yeah, and it gives
like,
you,
I want to know when it is.
And I think I feel my personal experience is it gives you that capture, then how your site is running there and then. But that's just my experience and my views on
brilliant. that. Yeah, absolutely. So Andrew, I suppose if you want to take us through, I think you mentioned the next one of the top 3, the food safety culture. So if you want to talk us a little bit about that. Yeah. Thanks very much, Brent, for that.
Yeah, so just to go back to another big change that we have introduced is this product safety culture, which is not new for Food 9, but we have just really kind of, I guess, explored it a bit more, and we've considered what behavioral changes are required to improve food safety culture within the organization. So in Food Issue Now, we ask sites to have a clear plan for the development and continuing improvement of a food safety and quality culture. And we've listed some of those measures that this plan should include, such as clear and open communication. We talk about training. We talk about feedback from employees, as well as all those behaviors required for a safety culture and so on. So you need to communicate with all of the staff. And if they all speak in different languages, then that's a challenge already that you need to address.
Yeah, I believe in that, and I believe it should be the culture should be fed sort of down and find out what's going on with your organization. And I think you touch base on the translation piece, is I think that's a massive tick if sites are actually looking and are having documents there that is for people who speak different languages, who can't and who doesn't understand or read English very well, because it's their, it's not their first language.
Of
So
course, yeah.
I think that's a massive tick, especially for the culture, because you are looking at your people, you're working, you're trying to support them and in that working environment, and to support and improve things. So yeah, I 100% believe in the the culture
Yeah.
piece, and I do understand a lot of manufacturers or factories do struggle with that piece.
Yeah.
So it can be tough, but like you said, Angela, regarding the allergen training, if there's something that's come back on your surveys, it's something that can be done, and that's showing that you are doing that piece of work.
Yeah, and showing that sites care about their staff and are willing to invest in them, and listening to taking that feedback and addressing it. So the main point on this section on 4.6, it's to focus on the underlying principles of equipment design. So just bear in mind, the intention here is to focus on the risk of the equipment to food and the hygienic design of all of the equipment. So just make sure that there's been some new clauses brought in here, and there's been some updated clauses. And all we're saying is just be mindful that when you are buying new equipment, and when I mean new, I mean just new to site, make sure you've got a good specification. You understand, does it comply with all the relevant legislation? Is it suitable for food contact? Is it, do you know how to dismantle it, how to clean it? And when you're moving any of that equipment around, because some of that equipment mightn't be moved very often, but if you are moving it around, so if it's static equipment, for example, but you actually have to move it for whatever reason, just be aware that you could be unintentionally introducing some product safety risks or damaging equipment as a result. Well, like what I keep saying is all of these changes that I've talked about require people within the site working together with many procedures and all of these company policies, all of these standard operating procedures, and they all affect food safety risk. And every time equipment is moved or changed on the site. So people need to talk, people need to communicate, and they need to communicate in a common language. So like I said earlier, each site, lots of different languages being used. And this is where a translation platform could really help employees understand and be trained in what they are responsible for. And this in turn then helps them support them on their journey for BRC GS certification.
Everyone has tried to translate documentations within businesses. And the first thing people do is they go to Google and they will translate a document. Now, when you give that to somebody to read, I think everyone's done that. When you give that to somebody, they read it and you see a smirk on their face or they laugh because it's not quite right. And I think that has been a massive challenge for everyone within businesses, especially in manufacturing, because the terminology that is used in manufacturing, it can sometimes be a bit mind-blowing, especially for new people that do start. So we've come up with the translation document side. Now, we have had this tested. It doesn't use Google, so it uses the Microsoft program. And we have it sort of checked and everything like that. And the feedback we have had is fantastic. And we have got some of our accounts or customers that are coming on board and wanting this feature.
So we actually have just a quick demo of the platform, the AutoTranslation feature on the Envolve platform. My colleague Chloe is actually on her holidays in Colombia at the minute and kindly videoed. I did a quick demo of the platform for us. So thanks very much for that, Chloe. So we'll just show you this now so that you can have a quick practical look at how it all works.
Hi everyone, I wanted to give you a quick look at how easy it is to set up any required languages that you may have on your site, and then how easy it is to access all of those languages anytime when you're on the platform. So the first thing that I would do is I would go to my shared workspace, and this is where you can set all your required languages as needed on site. So I've just selected a few here today, but as you need any more, you just select and bring over, and then you just save. Okay, so then what you have to do is you can actually, there's two places you can access the languages now. The first is the platform itself, so you can change the platform language to anything that you have selected. And then the second place is you would go to any of your operating procedures. Okay, hop into a procedure here that I've created already. Go to the supporting information, and I can see here this is ready to be translated. So if I go into the translations, okay, I can see these are all ready for me to translate. Okay, so I can just go down the board, select the ones that I need for my particular site. And here's a couple of examples of the translations. Say German, and I'll just hop in quickly and show you another example. So what I'll do next is I'll actually hop onto the tablet, and I'll give you a look at how the translations are easily accessed on the go. Okay. So now that I am on the platform, first is I would go is hop to my procedures. Okay, hop to the procedure that I've translated. I just select it, and I can select any language then as it pops up. So English is already, and that's my base language for this particular procedure. So I can just hop into German. And you can see it is translated there, and the format stays the exact same. And that's it. That's how easy it is to access it on the tablet itself. I can also hop into any other language then as required, and it pops up for me. And I can go down the list as needed and go into any language, and it comes up in the required language. Okay, so the next thing I'll do then is I'll actually hop into the mobile app and show you how easy it is for employees to access this information. Now that I'm in the mobile app, I just go to any training that has been assigned to me, go into any of my procedures and look at any of my supporting information from within these procedures. And I can see all the languages pop up then as I need them. So I can go into English, German, any language then that you would require, and it all stays the same formatting. So that's it. That's how easy it can be for you to access any language on your site and give you that diverse workforce training. And again, this is all accessed through the Envolve platform. And if you want to test this at any time, please do let your account owner know. Thank you.
So it's a brilliant tool. So I might just ask yourself, Brent, being our customer success executive, to talk a little bit. You probably use it, or you probably have.
I've tested it. Not that I can read other languages, because I can't. But I've had a look. I've had a play with it, and it's fantastic. The documents are there. You select your language that you want it to be translated to, and you press the download button, and it's available within a minute. It's done. Yeah. The other good thing about it is once it's downloaded, it's on the platform. It's ready for you to be used. You can go onto another tablet. You can log into your platform, and the documents there underneath that procedure. And I think that personally, that's a great tool, because you haven't, and I've done this in the past, where you've gone back to a computer and you've had to try to translate something again. Yeah. Then you don't save it. Then you got to go back, do it again. It's saved for you. It is done. And once that document is loaded to somebody's learning plan, it's available there and then. So you don't have to keep pressing a download button or anything like that.
Actually, I think really could potentially help sites, because we do in fact state in the standard in section 7.1.3 that sites must have a documented training program covering the training needs of all of the personnel, and it must be delivered in the appropriate language of the trainees. And that's what we state in the standard. It must be delivered in the appropriate language of the trainees. So this is where perhaps, you know, there could be a good opportunity here for sites. However, I mean, we've talked about translations before, and exactly like the point that Brent said about, and it's a big watch out that we point out, is that when sites are translating documents, like we've said, Google Translate is the obvious choice. And actually that does not translate the document accurately in the local dialect. And this can really cause confusion in something like a standard or any of the requirements, because and we've seen this ourselves. It doesn't translate the words exactly in the technical speak that we mean it to translate into. So it's very important when sites are choosing a translation platform to get one that is professionally recognized and somebody that knows the industry. So we know that all employees benefit from having all of their documents translated into their preferred language, because of course that's the one that they relate to, and they learn a lot more quickly, and they can conduct their roles and their responsibilities much more effectively. And that is the requirement. And that's not just a requirement in section 7.1.3, but we need them to understand the whole standard. And so I think that's what Brent's been explaining, is that the importance of making sure that you use, you know, get the relevant documents translated and use a professional platform that will do that translation for you.
I have seen it personally that people have got stuck. I've had people come to me before to say, well, it's come back saying get into a car or something like that, where it should be saying ensure that you step onto the step of the forklift to get into the forklift correctly. So that's just like an example. So you, like you said, Angela, use a professional or something that is known to translate those documents, and that's what we do have within Involve. We have that. So yeah, I think exciting times, and I think it's going to help everyone with their audits.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both very much for that. Excellent. Thanks, Angela and Brent. So yeah, guys, I just want to thank you again so much for your time today. I think it was excellent, really, really interesting to hear from both your point of views.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both so much, and I'll chat to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.